Our children are priceless, and we would do anything to protect them. So why aren't you using Go Free to protect them from the most harmful ideas? Decades in the making, Go Free is a simple yet brilliant practice designed to free us from destructive socio-political ideas. As words are the tools with which we think, Go Free promotes precise, simple, and targeted language to counteract psychological warfare. When you go free of the system's control over your word choice, you liberate your thinking. As you grow, you can empower others. And the most important thing you can do is inoculate our children against the ideas that are meant to harm them.
Good evening, Grace. Good to see you. Grace, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yay! Awesome.
We're just gonna.
I just sent you a DM on your Twitter.
All right, let me check that real quick. I see anything new or it hasn't loaded yet.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that Cass is here, and she is the young lady whose Gibson Go you kindly reposted the other night. So she's a friend. I just wanted to let you know, and she's a friend of the channel and a friend of the community. So she'll be good to speak, just in case you didn't know who she was.
Oh, well, thank you. Very good to know, actually. Yes, I
You're welcome. Yeah,
have her
that
as
way,
speaker.
because you don't always know. Yeah, you don't always know when new people show up.
We'll get Biospirit set up here.
And I did tell Jason, and he is excited, and he will be on his way to participate. He's really excited.
Well, tell him to hurry up. What is he, old? Good evening, Biospirit brother. How the hell are you?
Doing very well. Just finished dinner right on time here, and just made it on time.
I wouldn't start without you. You can't be late.
No, everybody else is just early. But hi, welcome everyone.
Well, welcome, Cass. It's the first time we spoke. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
As is customary, let's get the intro out of the way while we wait. Welcome to the extra shade, or perhaps extra shady, edition of the Shade Tree, Light Wellbeing NWG Space. We normally hold this space every day at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on X. We are a no white guilt community that meets to practice the concepts and lexicon developed by my friend Jason Kuna, Mr. No White Guilt. You can find him here on X as at No White Guilt NWG. On YouTube and elsewhere is simply No White Guilt, and on the web at nowhiteguilt.org. We usually discuss a wide variety of topics of interest to white people everywhere and look for ways to apply solutions. I am the tree godfather, your humble old host, and I don't have a co-host, and that's all right. As always, we do run pretty casual here, but I do ask that you raise your hand if you would like to jump in. Otherwise, I generally call on speakers in turn for their thoughts, and please don't talk over others. If you would like to hop into the conversation, just request a mic, and we'll get you set up if X cooperates. We only ask that you comport yourself as much as possible to the Go Free lexicon and act like a proper lady or gentleman of the West, whichever is applicable. And yes, it is only a 50-50 offering. Good evening, Mr. Ardent Party. It's good to see you here. AAA is here. Our friend Grace is here. Mr. Biospirit of the West and Cass. And we hopefully will have Mr. Jason shortly.
He just texted again. He said he's on his way and he'll be here in a minute.
Tick tock, Clarice.
Exactly. Late to his own celebration.
I'll have you know I intend on being late to my own funeral. Ironically, I was late to our own wedding. Well, technically, my wife was. I was there in time, but the limo driver got lost and ended up about 20 minutes late. Now, I don't mind telling you, you hear horror stories about being stood up and grooms standing at the altar going, uh-oh, what's going on? I was shitting freaking bricks. Cass, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, I will. Well, first, I am the youngest member of the No White Guilt community, I think by a long shot. But I am a mom to three beautiful little girls, a 7, almost 8-year-old, a 3, almost 4, and we just had the youngest turn 2. And every time that the intro to No White Guilt happens to come on, we have some very supportive little cheerleaders of it. But originally, my family is from Scotland. They came over here, my great grandparents, they came over here because they wanted to have a more broad perspective, and they just wanted to branch out from being in a small place and to be able to meet other conjuring people kind of like us. So they moved over here, and then so on and so on generations. Here I come along, and now I'm trying to raise my girls to do the same thing, but with the help of my No White Guilt community members.
Well, I can tell you, as the father of 3 girls, I've seen the other side of it. And of course, my girls are much older. And it's a lot of fun when they're little. When they get teenagers, that's when the trouble starts. But I'm undoubtedly you're going to have an amazing time. It is quite an adventure, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. In each one, they have their own, I guess, set stigma of little things that can either make them happy or it feels like the whole world kind of melts down for them. But it's amazing to see, because even though that they have like their own perspective of things, it's how they react to it is what gets me. The oldest one, she tries to be more leery and actually think about like each set's like either issue um or celebration. And she actually asked herself, well, how can I make this better? How can I make this work? The middle one, she goes straight forward to the point, and she's not going to beat around the bush. And then my youngest one, she's more of, well, I'm kind of like my older sister, but it depends on the situation. Then we start kind of going forward and more steam ahead, so to say. But it is definitely a learning experience, especially with being a young mom herself and trying to learn, I guess, the functions, because it changes every day with kids. Whether they're learning or they're just actively playing, and how their mindsets are for each set kid. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. If anything, my children has made me more aware of the problems that's going on into the world. And I, as a parent, can be able to say, oh, well, we need to come up with another solution that works. And so that we can, I guess, not really, but maybe protect our children better. So that way they will be able to, and they're going to continue on the legacy of our lives and our names. And they're going to be the ones that's raising the generation after them. And we want to keep that as a wholesome, but a more honest approach. We want to keep it that way. And it's going to be for more and more generations to come. So with them being little, we're having all the fun now, but we're raising them to be aware. So that way they can say, oh, well, this isn't what it's supposed to be. I know the truth, and I'm not going to fall for deceit. And this is how I'm going to get away from it. So to protect themselves.
That sounds good. I would just ask Cass that you mute your mic in between speaking, and that goes for everybody as usual. Mr. Jason, I hope I sent you a mic. I intended to. Perhaps I did not. That would be very bad on me, wouldn't it? Miss Grace, did you want to go ahead and speak to why we're here?
So we are here as a group of cozy friends tonight, to talk about how going free has changed our lives and the lives of others in our communities, and how it's given us the ability to push back on the anti-white narrative. And I'm super excited to see all these fantastic people showing up. Thank you all for being here. And I got a testimony too from Cindy Ben, so she's here in spirit.
Yeah, that's the only thing with this time of night, of course, is that it can be a little tough, particularly because Go Free is such a global interest, which to me is so amazing that so many people around the world are picking up Go Free, and all our brethren in Western kind are taking the adventure forward, and it's really making a difference out there. We are a growing community, which makes me feel good. I know we have, it's like 8 people on YouTube for me to see. I'm not right next to the laptop. And like Jason, I need glasses too. So sometimes with that, Jason, welcome
Hello, hello. You
for
broke up a little
shady
bit.
version of the shade tree. Yes, I
Yeah,
expect I might,
right.
but welcome. Come on in.
All right. Can y'all hear me all right? Yes, all right. Yeah, well, cool. An extra shade. There's extra shade. I was like, extra shade. That sounds pretty cool. So an extra shade tree show here. Very cool. Talking about white well-being. That's awesome. And the effects of it. It makes me think about. It makes me think about uh, over the years when I was in the process of creating the dialogic and how there were, oh, I don't know how many times that others in the white sympathetic sphere, uh, folks older than myself, people I respected, wise people, but also the pressure of the mob would push me momentarily off track. No, you've got to think more about this. No, if you want anybody to listen to you, you've got to say more of this. You got to do more of that. And uh, every single time, I varied from the Go Free lexicon and dialectics and the principle of white positivity and focusing entirely on us. Every single time, everything went wrong. And I noticed that my thinking went wrong, my health would go wrong, my everything would just go wrong, and I felt like I would be entering like an alternative universe of advocacy for our people. And I don't know. I guess maybe I could potentially share more of that as we chat here. But very cool and great to see everybody who has shown up. And thanks so much. I mean, this sounds like it'll be fun.
Well, fun is on the list for today. I don't want to get into anything too hot and heavy. We're just here to have a good, fun conversation for once. Uh, we saved the controversial stuff for the Shade Tree afternoon editions. Ms. Grace, I nominate you to share first.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm like nothing like going first, right? So, I first came across Going Free, I guess it was in 2018 when there were all these, I guess like far right debates going on. It was like the year of debates where big like I guess far right people were debating each other on YouTube and all that. And I would watch some of those. And during one of those debates, I think Mark Collett was mentioned, or maybe he was there. And so then I checked out his channel because it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like dominoes. You find one channel and then you find another, and then somebody recommends this and you go check out that. And so I watched Mark's show, and then Jason was on Mark's show, and that's where I heard him speak first. And what he was saying made so much sense. And it didn't just make sense, but the way he was speaking was something that appealed to me because it was something that I could share with everyone and not get in trouble. Like his podcasts were shows that I could leave on my desk on my phone playing and in the background. And if people walked by my open office door, no one was going to be offended by what they heard. And so that was like a difference because a lot of the podcasts on the right at the time, as they called themselves, I think they called themselves the alt right, which is dumb. But a lot of those podcasts were really hate filled. And I didn't know there was another way to be. It was like either the GOP, like milk toast version, or there's these other people who are pushing harder on what we need, but they're so hate filled. And I didn't feel comfortable with that, but that was like all that I knew that was out there. So then after I started watching Going Free for a little bit, and I ordered the book and I read it. But I have to admit, at first when I read it, I read it and I took it in. I didn't do the workbook portion of it, and I just kind of read it to consume it like I do with most things. But I didn't it didn't I didn't know how it could be applied to like my real life until one day at work. I actually had an aha moment. And I was thinking about this earlier today when I was thinking about what I was going to say. And it was really interesting because I was sitting there with a coworker and we were coming up with talking points for my boss as to what he could say in response to illegal immigration needing to be curbed, and his thought of it needing to be aggressively curbed, as he said. And so we were trying to think of reasons as to why, he could make that argument and make it okay. And I was like offering up all these like GOP talking point reasons. I was like, well, did you know that all these immigrant children and women, these illegals that come over, a lot of them are sexually trafficked and sexually assaulted. And then I was like, and do you know that they're taking like all the non-whites jobs, and I said, I think I said people of color at the time, because that's what the GOP says. And I was like, they're taking all the jobs that the people of color can have, and that's not fair. And then I made the point, I was like, we see a lot of legal immigrants coming here trying to help them get their paperwork together, and they wait sometimes for years to come over. And these other people are just walking across the border. And I was like, that's not fair either. And I was coming up with all these points. And as I was saying them, I knew in my head, like, that's not what I really felt. But that's the only way that I felt that I could voice what I really wanted to say, which was that I didn't think legal or illegal immigration was a good idea. And it was destroying the neighborhood that I lived in. And that's what I really want, because that's what mattered to me, was the fact that I couldn't walk my dog anymore. I got spit on at the grocery store by a Somali Muslim for not wearing a burqa. I mean, the government built refugee housing in my middle class, predominantly white neighborhood. And then they filled it with Somali Muslims. And my car was broken into 3 times in 6 months. I mean, it went from a place where you could literally leave your car unlocked and your wallet in your car and no one was going to touch it, to being a place where you could lock your car at night and you knew not to leave anything in it, and they would still break in to see if they could find anything. So my neighborhood was being destroyed by immigration, and that's what mattered to me, and I wanted to say that, but I didn't have the words to say that, and I didn't have the words to push back on it in a moral way. So I thought the only moral way to do it was to use these talking points about how non-white groups were being negatively impacted by it, because I didn't see my group or myself as valuable, as like valuable enough to be able to have have a reason to push back. It's like I felt like I had to use them as a proxy so that I could make my point. And I realized then how anti-white that was, and how I was operating in the anti-white moral framework, and I was using the arguments that the common GOP used, which were all within the anti-white framework, and that wasn't what I really wanted to say. And then I realized that you can apply the concepts, like it does work, and it makes sense once you start to apply it to your life. And then I was able to actually talk to people at work. And of course, when I'm writing things for my boss, of course I still use GOP language, because that's what he's comfortable with, and that's what he'll always be comfortable with, because that's just where he's at. But I can talk to other people in my office and in my workplace and use the Going Free lexicon, and no one gets offended by it, and people understand it. Nobody like freaks out if I say, yeah, immigration is white erasure. It's and people get that. People look around and they're like, yeah, I see that. We have a lot of Indians around here, so we are being white erased. And so you can use those words, you can use those concepts in your life at a micro level. And then, it's really cool to see that those words and concepts have traveled all the way up to the mouth of President Trump when he said April 2024 that there's an anti-white feeling in this country that cannot be allowed. So it starts with us individually, and it travels up and it travels out. And I think that is the beauty of it, is that it is teachable, and it's so teachable and so learnable that people can pick it up and they can spread it to other people. And that is what makes it such a wonderful method to use in your life, and such an easy method once you start doing it. So I really think, kind of when I was thinking about this earlier, I was thinking about how it does work its way from, the micro level of the individual and work its way out. And it's almost like a ripple in a pond, when you throw a rock in a pond. And it's like you throw it in and it ripples out and ripples out and ripples out. And you can't see the how far the ripples go, from standing on the shore. You don't really know how far they're going to go, but you know that they're out there. And that's kind of the way it is with going free. It's like you throw that rock in there and you introduce someone to the concept and you don't know where it's going to go. So I think that it makes it such a powerful lexicon and dialectic and method to use because it travels so fast. And that's all I have to say.
Well, very well said, sister. Um, it's very portable. I like that it's very easy. You memorize the 6 key concepts, and that applies to pretty much everything. I'll say good evening to Ivan the Audible, janitor of White Noirs here on X. On YouTube, we have Ardent Party, I. And for White Wellbeing, good to see all of you. Miss Cass, ladies next. Come on in.
Hi, thank you for having me. So, to kind of jump right in and give a personal testimony, I started on my pathway just a few years ago. I want to say 6, almost 7. So, it's coming right up on my anniversary of it. But I was at a time period in my life where you're trying to figure out what to do next, where to go, who are you, what are you meant to be? And I had a lot of questions. And a lot of these questions that I was asking, I kind of had a idea of what the answers would be, but I was still unsure because what you see on like news channels or reading articles or things like that, that's just the narrative that they want you to believe. It's not the actual reality of it. But I started noticing that there was a whole lot more of illegals coming in. Whether they did fill out the paperwork and they went through the process at customs, or just the flooding and like the amounts like quadrupling, sometimes even more, within weeks and days, months and years. And I was asking these questions like, just why is this happening? And as I notice more and more of instances happening where our people is being attacked and we're being forced to move out of our subdivisions so that we could be able to house them, and all of these dramatic changes, I started asking questions. And the more questions that I asked, the more that it seemed like the answers wasn't visible. So I started digging and doing research, and I happened to come on X, and I was like, well, I don't think that this is going to go anywhere, but I could at least say that I tried, and I tried it. And I started looking into like different like posters of like people that is all over YouTube. A couple of them that they happen to follow me, and of course I'm going to follow them back and give them the support. But I come across one of No White Guilt's videos, or Jason's videos, and I, just out of habit, I clicked and I was like, well, we'll see what this is about. And every single one of the questions that I had, they had been answered within that one video. But there was more to continue. There's still a whole lot more to learn, no matter what age you are, or where you're from, or your level of education. But it's the mentality, it's what you're being told, and that's up to you on how you perceive it. So I took this information and I channeled it for the greater good, because without this, or without the ideology and without the lexicon, all in all, whites have done far more than any other ethnicity in the world, and they will continue to do so. They have doubled life expectancy. They have created medicines to cure or manage infectious diseases and illnesses. They have changed the positive of the industrial technology of the world and the raising economic growth that's happening with our nation. It's very organized to the point to improve our lives as a whole. And there's the six concepts of it, and every single one of them had been answered when I had bought and read Jason's book. And the six concepts now for my advanced or ones that have been practicing for a while, you already know: anti-white, anti-whiteism, the anti-white narrative, Western kind, white erasure, and white well-being. Every single one of my questions has the answer, and these are the answers to it. Whether it's been driven by an idea or just the denial that the anti-whites perceive, it is consistently a downplay of reality. And we, as white people, we already embody. We know the cleanliness. We have the passion and the drive, and to be able to keep a stable, balanced shift in the world. But the minute that we are surrounded by a overgrowth or the infrastructure, then we will suffer a great loss the minute that we're gone. So it's viable that once, say that we're gone, the white race has given us a whole bunch of great factors, medicines, technology. We've created all of that, but they're just trying to take it away from us and then give us consequences, even though we're the ones that has created all of this. But the minute that it's all gone, you can't get that back. And I'd really hate to see that for all of the rest of the world. And I will continue to follow by no white guilt. I will continue to follow by all of this because it makes sense to me and it's changed my life for a more positive. So I can be able to not only just keep this information to myself, but so I can help other community members and be able to help people that live close to me be able to find and realize this ideology so that they're not susceptible to the deceit that is being placed upon them.
Beautifully said, Cass. I like you mentioning the six key concepts. I did bring them up there into the Jumbotron. And earlier it's funny because you said you were the youngest member of the Go Free community, and I happen to be I think I'm the oldest. So it's some interesting dichotomy there.
No,
Um,
you can't be.
yeah, so I'm older than Jason, even. Not quite as old as Dirt, but getting there. Mr. Biospirit, my brother, come on in.
Well, yeah, I'm the second oldest, so I'm not too far behind you there, Tree Godfather. And I've been trying to remember, since Grace invited me to this, how long ago it was that I found Go Free, and I don't know. It's been so long. And I don't think it was when I was still living in Berkeley. So I believe it was once we had moved out here to Rio Vista. And so that would make it around 2017-ish. And I know it was definitely 2018 and 2019 I was around. So it was somewhere in that realm. And we had sold our house in Berkeley and moved out to not to the suburbs, but we had moved out way out into the country because it had just become just untenable to live where we were living anymore. It was a once white neighborhood that had been white erased a long time ago, and then I was one of those gentrification people, as they like to call us, that came in and fixed up a beautiful old Victorian house in a rundown neighborhood. And back then I was still very anti-white, and I thought that well, these people here, they'll be thrilled that I'm coming in and investing all this money and doing all this work and fixing up something in their neighborhood, and I could not have been more wrong. I was not welcome. They did not well, they were not happy that I was there, and I had everything from garbage and bottles thrown and smashed in my front yard to the plants being destroyed to people taking a dump on my front porch. So excuse my language there, but that was what we were dealing with. And so it was very nice to be able to get out of there and move somewhere that now feels safe. And when I made that move, I was looking for things on the internet that would make sense to me. And I came across this show, and it was Jason and Jared George, and I was like, wow, these guys really make a lot of sense. And I bought I think the first book I bought was what used to be called by Mark Collett, Jason's Doorstop, the big book. Uh, and so I read that, and I was just blown away. I mean, I have the old version of Born Guilty, where you're reading along, and all of a sudden you have to turn the book upside down and read it backwards and everything. And I was like, God, this guy is really creative. And I was just blown away by that book. Um, and so I started writing letters with donations, and then they would do like a show, and it would be like tailored to what I had asked about. I was like, this is really amazing. These guys are just out of this world. So I got so much of my questions answered, and I like I said, I felt like it was so personal. And um, I I went and read all of the other books, and as everybody knows, I became more and more involved in the organization over time, and here I am now, the head of the outreach team. And then I started thinking about, well, what can we do to make it easier for people to donate? And as someone who likes to have a tax deduction, I thought, well, if we form a tax exempt entity, and that people can donate and get a tax write-off for it, that'll be even better. And we'll get that in place so that when the millionaires show up, then it'll all be set and they can donate, and everything's going to be all purring along there. So I don't know really what else to say. I'm one of the, as they say, I'm one of the true believers, and I think Jason's what he has come up with is absolutely unique. It is the solution for Western kind to recapture our destiny. And the only other thing I want to mention is there's a book that I'm reading right now, which is called Blind Spots, and it's by the doctor who Trump has added to his administration to help clean up things, like in the NIH and the CDC. And he talks about how difficult it is for people who have unique ideas, who are inventors, who um, have they have the right answer, but unfortunately, the people that you go to tell your brilliant idea to, they don't want to hear it. And it's not just that Jason has this problem. This is a problem that we have as a people and as a society, where even the people who have come up with cures for disease um, have been shunned and ridiculed and persecuted over hundreds of years of time, because our people can't handle new ideas. It produces cognitive dissonance in our people. And rather than embrace a new idea, something that is good for us and that will heal us, they say, no, that's not how we do it. No, that's not the way we think about things. No, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to do it this way, the way that we've always done it, even though it's destructive and makes no sense anymore and clearly doesn't work. We're not going to listen to your brilliant idea. So I just wanted to mention that to Jason, that other people have certainly seen that this is the way that things are received. And it's very unusual that when somebody has the answer, that anybody listens to them. But that the way that it is overcome is by continuity and continuing to just keep presenting and presenting and presenting until you do find the person and the people who will take it up and make it the prominent idea that it needs to be. So we are doing what is needed to be done. We're broadcasting it out into the world as best we can, and on we go. So thank you, brother. I really do appreciate everything that you have created, and thank you.
Biospirit brings up a really excellent point. You know, the resistance to go free is like it's the biggest, how would I put it? Vaccine hesitancy we've ever seen, unfortunately. But we are growing and gaining traction, and that very much motivates me. So good evening, Dylan, my brother. Good to see you. Anti-Vilification League is here, as is Janitor of White Noir. Our party has joined the party on X, and Frank is here. Uh, so for those of you who missed it, we are offering testimonials to how we were introduced to Go Free and Jason, and just giving a little diatribe, I guess you'd say, about how that's going. I encourage anybody who would like to grab a mic to please do so. Mr. Biospirit is co-host, and he can certainly hand those out if we are otherwise occupied. But I'm going to turn over to Jason for a few minutes while anybody who wants to grab a mic steps forward and grabs one, and then we'll carry on.
Sounds good. And brother, did you send me the join as co-host, or is that an option that I have on the screen to ask you to join as a co-host? I can help out with that responsibility if you sent that to me.
I didn't. I sent it to
Okay.
you. Yes.
All right. All right. Very good. I'll click on that. Uh-oh, what is it saying now? Maybe I'll click on it when I'm done talking. Okay. But so I guess I want to say, first of all, I want to thank Grace for setting this up. That's so very kind. Thank you very much, Sugar. And what she had to say about working in a conservative environment and wanting to use, it's very typical, and we talk about this all the time. The truths of the dialogic they run front to back. It's a fully contained ideology practice that doesn't have to be altered. It's a formula that never has to be changed for any circumstance. Helps us retrodict, helps us understand the present, and helps us predict with near 100% accuracy and clarity. And that's a consequence of Obviously, the time that I have given to it, but so many others as well. So many brilliant people contributing to Go Free, and it will continue being that way. Third edition. After I'm done making the audiobook for Prometheus Rising, once I do that, then I'll get to work on the third edition, and I have piles of notes of things that I have deduced and wanted to add it, and things that so many others in the community have as well that ended up in the laboratory of the real world working out. And so those will all be included. And as I work through that third edition, we'll be talking about it on the streams. We'll be building it together. And by the time that one is done, it's probably going to be maybe nearly twice the size it is now, maybe another doorstop, as Colin said about Born Guilty. But it's going to end up being a great resource, as it is now, but even a better resource. And we'll continue distilling the power of it. But you know, and speaking of that, because when Grace is talking about being in these cuck environments, why is it that, I mean, this is like a weekly basis now we're mentioning, why is it that we talk about the harm done to non-white people by immigration or by abortion or by on and on? Well, it's because of that social morality, the anti-white immoral imperative, the social morality, which has trumped all of the others, which has defeated, undermined, supplanted, replaced all of the other moralities and ethical codes in the West. It is ascendant. And without addressing the social morality and defeating the social morality, you can't do anything else. So every other conversation is superfluous. It doesn't matter what somebody brings to the table in those conversations. They're just superfluous. They're not ready. They can't, none of it can be done until we are able to win the conversation based on the moral principles of white positivity. So, she also mentioned that that's a great demonstration of where she was prior to Go Free. And so many people are in that situation. I mean, I've been in circles where all the way back, Tea Party activists, and where they were back 2009, and they were doing the exact same thing, citing MLK, et cetera, to make their point, giving like these warnings about if they're going to share an opinion that might be a tad bit at variance with this anti-white social morality. They give you this warning ahead of time. So able to witness that and then understand as a consequence, all right, well, what do we have to do so that we can circumvent this need to yield obeisance to anti-whiteism? Because if you're on their moral plane, immoral as it is for us, if you're on their moral plane, you can never win the conversation. And generations of lives and going by, and the continued vilification of the white race, the anti-whiteification of the totality of the West demonstrates the failure of those tactics. But then she is confronted with this new way to talk, a way that you don't have to hide your power level, a way that's more in keeping with your true self, with your morality, with the biospirit of the West that you feel inside of yourself, so that you can go then, and Cass spoke to this as well, you can go to those around you and share much, some, all of this without any fear, except in the cases of the most radical anti-whites who absolutely want to get rid of the white race. But otherwise, without any fear of the kind of repercussions that you see for so many of the other approaches to the challenges that we face from anti-whites and West. I mean, it would be something if we could have like stadium full of people to celebrate so many of the people in service to white well-being, especially in this most central, the Knights of the White Table, this core of heroes. And you got Tree Godfather obviously stepping up to same. West came in and has just been a victor and a champion every step of the way. And it would be nice if we could set everybody out there in front of a college football stadium's 125,000 or so people to celebrate, because that's what each of you deserve, is that sort of acknowledgement and celebration for your charity, your time, your love, your tenacity, your willingness to put up with the headaches of the anti-whites, the absolute abject unfairness of the way that they treat us, and then having to go back again and again and find another way, find another platform, find another argument. It's infinitely challenging, and it takes a special person, a hard-headed person, to get in there and want to duke it out, not only with, of course, the anti-whites, but the basic population filled with this anti-white immoral imperative, thinking it's absolutely wrong. We all have our friends and loved ones, and anytime that we've spoken up for the white race against the victimization, for the West against the anti-whiteism, anytime we've spoken up, we hear this, pardon me, this anti-whiteism coming out of their mouths, whether they're anti-white or not. You can't go out and say that. You'll get fired for that. Everybody will hate you for that. And very often, especially if it's parents or people quite close to us, it's, well, I will be harmed. I will suffer if you say something against anti-whiteism. If you're heretical to anti-whiteism, then my life is going to be upset. But West, talking about the born guilty and that having such an effect, positive effect on his life, and the way that it was originally written, and that, case in point, the challenges of keeping born guilty available were immense, because Amazon used every little trick that they could up their sleeve to trouble the sales, to trouble its availability. And one of the things they continually went back to was this trick that I had in the book, where you are as the reader, you're falling asleep. The words begin to get muddled, the letters get muddled. Eventually, the text is inverted and muddled, and then it starts to clear up a little bit. You realize you've got to turn the book. If you have any sense for riddles at all, you realize you got to turn the book upside down, and then you got to turn the pages the wrong way to continue to read the stories during those dream sequences. Well, they said, Amazon essentially said, you can't have that, and because it makes us look bad as a publisher or whatever. Even though I pointed out that you have these Mensa books, you have all kinds of riddle books that have things like this, challenges in the book, and there's no question of that. And numerous times they concluded, well, you're right. After I went through boss after boss after boss, you're right. We'll put it back up on the platform. And even though there were these previous decisions that the book could absolutely be the way that it was, they just kept coming back with that. And they treated it anew. Every new anti-white maybe that came along, they treated it, and they would look at the other decisions. Yes, I see that, but no, no, no. And so eventually, I had to take that novelty out of Born Guilty, which I don't think that Collett ever actually read, or if he did, he was too jealous to ever say anything positive about it. Instead, he felt like a little passive aggressive slap in the face that it's could be used for a doorstop was the way to handle it when he was on stream with his audience, which was, of course, much bigger at the time. But Wes raised another point that is really important, and that is that you have this intransigence. You have this what's known as the Einstellung effect, this willingness to perseverate in this in a pursuit, in a cure, in a remedy that is either, for a challenge that is either misplaced. It's a quote remedy that can work somewhere else, but can't work for the circumstance that you're addressing, or it's something that just fails, but is perceived to be, for any number of reasons, something that could have worked in the past or worked in the past, and so we're going to keep going back to this same thing, no matter how many times it fails in the present, no matter how many times that logical, rational, and consistent arguments could be made about why those approaches fail, and about why a different approach with proven successes is the proper path to go. Of course, you also have the effect of jealousy And so many people, regrettably, who are in, and this is even prior to the internet being able to carry so many voices and opinions and content creators. But which has complicated things further. But you had this phenomenon of people who they thought that they were going to be the salvation. They were going to save the white race. They were going to save Western kind. They're going to show up with the exact formula and them personally and their personality. And this is a preposterous, childish notion. Uh, the anti-whiteism is a global phenomenon. It is not another sports team. It is not a small town, and you're trying to just defeat some opposition political party or something like this. It's so far beyond the comprehension of the midwittery, and it's so far so they can't even see. We shared that Schopenhauer quote that talent hits a mark that nobody else can hit, genius hits a mark that nobody else can see, and that's 100% true when it comes to the Go Free dialogic. We have attained the victories and proof of concept that should be enough for those who honestly want to arrest our victimization. And yet, for so many, it continues not to be. We now have, of course, the internet and complicating things uh, by now platforming people who want to be a content creator for a living. Uh, they want to be a content creator for the aggrandizement of their intelligence or their learning or what have you. And so they are literally in it for themselves. And they're obviously, then, as a consequence, not going to want to highlight a community, an ideology, a practice that is successful for fear that that would take attention. And I mean, at the bare minimum, attention, not even money, not even aggrandizement, but just any little bit of attention is a threat to people whose objective is attention, whose objective is aggrandizement, whose objective is financial reward. Obviously, they're not going to come to a place that they believe will undermine what they are striving to achieve. And so we continue to labor away and demonstrate how noble the people are in this community that stick with this, that are tenacious enough to continue to plow ahead, not only against the anti whites, but against the censorship of people who are acclaimed or ostensibly on the same side, or who want the same sort of things, the arrest or the victimization of Western kind. And so many of these content creators, they turn to, they give voice to, and they celebrate the worst among us. And there are always going to be a larger number. I mean, the pyramid is broadest at its base. And there are always going to be people of questionable character, especially on the internet, which brings out the worst in people who have bad characters. There's always going to be more of those. There's always going to be more people of a mid-witted mentality. And so it really required those who are good, those who have higher morality, those who have more intelligence, to really stand up and say to these people, no, you're not going to slander what's working and what's good. No, and prevent them from as effectively taking the narrative and the arguments that are made hostage, so that those narratives, those arguments are continually appealing to this like basest of all approaches, this basest of all notions, that these people must be satisfied so that they won't slander you, so that they won't tell people not to watch you, so that they won't tell the broader community or potential converts that you are whatever they think that person needs to hear to prevent them from investigating. And we see this everywhere. I mean, the evidence is so pronounced. We have them. Julia, for example, she's over there in I don't recall what country they were in Europe, but she's over there trying to speak to a few of the notable characters in the white sympathetic sphere, and talk about Go Free. They had no interest in it whatsoever. And for, of course, the reality is, as much as we might respect or appreciate what they've done, or respect or appreciate or like them as people, the bottom line is that the only motivators that are left there after deep investigation are these really base motivators of self-aggrandizement and wealth and attention and jealousy over maybe even appearance and physical fitness. And it runs the gamut. But despite all of this, we have magnificent folks that have shown up, and we're having, as you all know, you're showing up all the time, uh, these colossal victories. We just had another one that I learned of today. Senator Eric Schmidt, I think it's of Missouri, was talking to Cashin Patel, and he was asking about the violence, the terrorism. And he was saying, of course, since he is a Republican and he got his seat by way of cucks, he's going to be speaking their language. And yet, thanks to the work done by this intrepid and tenacious community, he ended up calling the murder of Irina Zaruska anti-white. Everything else in that he was citing, he was talking about this act of terrorism, that act of terrorism. He was saying, was that left or was that right? That was left. Again, some other act, was that left or right? That was left. He gets to Irina Zaruska, was that anti-white? And of course, the answer is that it was anti-white. So that's a consequence of this community. That is the work, this anti-white, anti-whiteism, white erasure, these concepts that we push, that people are seeing more and more, that many said would never be used. No one would ever be interested. They laughed, they ridiculed white well-being, are now showing up in the mouths of people with power exactly as we articulated it could be done. And that's, as I say, again, because of the perseverance of the champions in this community, and so many of whom have what I like to refer to as blind sight. They were effectively coming over the course of their lives to many of the same conclusions that are instantiated in the Go Free practice. They were thinking, yeah, I think this, I think that, and this is actually because of this, instead of the reason that so many people are giving. But they faced the same sort of consternation, the same sort of resistance, the same sort of quicksanding that I faced. And as a consequence, they were roaming from ideology or group to ideology and group, looking for a place that harmonized, looking for an answer, looking for an approach that harmonized with their spirit, with their essence, with their morality, and that at the same time served the objective of arresting our victimization, which is truly the highest moral thing that anyone can pursue on the earth today. Arresting the victimization of Western kind based on our birth, with a focus on us. So I will say, aside from that, and your big salute and a lot of gratitude to everyone who is here and continues to stick it out in the struggle, morally and online and in person, and sharing these concepts. I'll say that I kind of had a way as well of coming to the Go Free practice, if you will. I had a way of a period of many, many years of, as you all know, I've talked about, where I, began writing the practice, creating the practice at a time when the internet was not robust enough to carry all of these communities, and everything was done in person. Every meeting was in person. There was no such thing as online, and you couldn't even have like a conference call. There was none of that. It was everything in person. And what people did is they would show up with every single person would show up with a pile of leaflets, a pile of newspapers, a pile of weekly news, monthly newspaper, newspapers twice a month, twice a year, once, and all kinds magazines. And they would all come in these meetings, and we would all, share all of material. We'd pass all the material out. And I did the same. I began working on the Go Free practice, and people who would employ the strategies, even from the very beginning, were seeing success from the use of the strategies. And we also, over time found different concepts that didn't work, different strategies that didn't work, and they would go and back to the drawing board once again and get to work on things. And along the way, I heeded a lot of things that some things were useful, some things were not useful. And what I alluded to earlier was that over the years of creating the Go Free practice, and that one-page leaflet growing to a multi-page leaflet, to finally it was pages with staples in the fold, so it's like a little booklet, and then it got to a little bit of a larger booklet in that form, and then it got to an actual printed up, but it was really Mickey Mouse version of Go Free, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger, and some things came out, new things got added. And but over that time, I had this pressure from the mass of the white sympathetic sphere, uh, and sometimes it was just the dullards, but in their numbers. Sometimes it was uh, wise, you would think wise people or educated people or intelligent people, and they would say, no, 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 not because of this, we have to talk about it this way. Because of that, we have to highlight these things. If you want to get to this point so that we could do X, Y, and Z, then we have to go this direction. And I would listen. I would say, all right, well, you're making a case here, and you have all of this social pressure against me about, you really need to go about this a different way. Focusing on our people explicitly is not the way to do this. And every time that I would vary from the course at all of what ultimately is this white positivity, every time I varied from it at all, things were not right for me. Things would not work when I would try to argue for white well-being by way of these other useless strategies, and they're really useless because they don't achieve white well-being. You can imagine you get somebody to hate black people or hate Jewish people or hate, and you still haven't gotten to a point where they're advocating for white well-being. You got to say, well, what are we doing? Why are we even talking about this? What is the objective if not to end and arrest our victimization? And so much of it, of course, was the childishness of it, this compelling to arrive at conclusions about maybe what government should look like, or maybe what the economy should look like, or maybe how international relations should function. And here we are, and I shared so many stories. One guy, I don't remember exactly what it was. We were at his townhouse, and it was like a dirty little townhouse, and he had a crappy little car up front. And he's talking about needing to figure out what kind of government we're going to have. And I said, you drive like a Pinto. Why are you talking about this? Why is this? This is a perfect waste of time. We can affect change in our lives, real change that changes the world we live in. And yet you want to come to some sort of conclusion about what kind of government that, quote, we are going to have at some point in the distant future, that is as likely as not, maybe even more likely, going to turn away more people than bring people in. And these kind of folks, they would end relationships. Well, fine, if you don't want to go about it my way. And so many relationships I walked away from. I know the same is true for you all as well. So many relationships you had to walk away from. But I think the most important thing to communicate about those times where I varied from the course over the years was that nothing was right. Not only was the argumentation faulty and could never work, but also it didn't resonate with my spirit. It didn't resonate with what I understood and felt to be this purest and most noble thing on planet Earth, which is to end the victimization of Western kind based on our birth. Every time there was this ugliness, every time there was this, like this splinter in the mind that said something's not right about this. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't work. It doesn't feel right. And as a consequence of not feeling right, it also had pernicious effects on health, on psyche, on spirit. You began nowadays. They call it a black pilled, of course. You just got seriously depressed in the past, right? You were just saturnine. You were morose as a consequence. You would feel like nothing can be done. Nothing is worth. They are all powerful. The they is the opposition. They're all nothing. And find myself like so many, just getting angrier and angrier with no outlet for the anger, getting more and more hateful of those around me, more and more hateful and isolated. That's the exact opposite of kind of people that we have to be. And I've said it before, you need to make sure that in your life, those who touch your life, that they enjoy that you are an advocate for white well-being, that it's a positive thing for their experience. If you're a parent and you've got children, or you're a child and you got parents and siblings or whatever it is, as you advocate for us, as you talk about our well-being, it needs to be something that buoys them, that makes them happy. Because the opposite with every other strategy out there is the ugliness. The family hates you for bringing up the ugliness. The friends hate you for bringing up the misery. Everything about it is harmful to the spirit and to the mind and to the psyche. Nothing is you can have the exact same problem in front of you, and it can be handled in one way that is productive and is a joy for those in your life to know that you are engaged in that struggle. Or that exact same problem, you can address it so that it is deleterious and miserable, and the family members learn to hate you, and the family member because you are angry and spiteful and cussing, walking through the house about this group and that group and etc. I've seen it all. I felt the emotions myself. And so every time I would come back to Go Free, and sort of the same thing, if the topic is how did we come to Go Free and what did it mean for us? Well, what it meant for me is every time that whatever perturbation there was over the years that I was argued into, pressured into, browbeaten into, some perturbation, every time I came back, things ran harmoniously. It was like Beethoven began playing again. It was like Vivaldi. It was like the Four Seasons was at work again in my life, and I could go out into the world and look people straight in the face and proudly say that I was against the victimization of Western kind. Here's how. Here's what you need to know about it, and here's why you need to be a part of that struggle. Because before, during the perturbations, I couldn't tell anybody what I was thinking. And if I told anybody what I was thinking, it would engender some sort of suspicion of me, some sort of the wariness of me, some sort of what else are you thinking? And of course, I later articulated exactly what's going through their mind and how it is in their mind that they know everything there is to know about you, quote unquote, by way of entertainment media. And so that's for me what it meant. Coming back to Go Free always was the grand icons of symphonic music in the West, the beauty and harmony with our people, with nature, with the world, and not only that, but this insatiable appetite to stick with the noble and the glorious. There's nothing ugly about fighting for my people. There's nothing ugly about ending the victimization of my people. I never have an ugly moment in my life. I'm never trying to hide my feelings about my advocacy for my people. I never feel as I did, and I know that other people feel this way as well, because I've been doing this forever, that you are some kind of skulking, immoral, but immoral, skulking, hiding, ugly character in the world, and you've got to scuttle from one shadow to the next. That's not a life I want to live. And so going free for me has been stepping into not just the light, but the light of the sun, the light of the creator, the light of the spirit of the West, the light of the western sunrise, clad in beautiful armor and banners snapping in the wind, because of the beauty of what that struggle actually is and means every moment of every single day. So that I could share about my experience going free. And I'll pass it back, brother. Anybody else have anything to say? But I'm so glad that everybody is here. The folks that were invited and showed up, and great to see you all, and anybody else who has shown up. And I really want to thank everybody for the lives that they led, the people, uh, the people that you are, that compels you to do what is glorious in your life, something to live for, to give yourself real meaning, because we are in an age where the anti-whites can tell millions of our brothers and sisters how ugly and evil and wrong it is. So it takes an especially heroic individual to step in to that void and defend Western kind. I'll pass it back.
Brother, I appreciate that very in-depth explanation of your experience. And you can bet that's going to be a clip for sure. I want to welcome Dr. Vril. Good to see you. It's been a while. Trust you've been well. Gladiator is here, and I missed you earlier, and I'm very sorry, dear. I did not mean to miss you. Frank is here. Irrelevant is here. Uh, Voice Force is here. For White Wellbeing is here, as is Memoria. Um, yeah, so I think people have gotten drips and drabs, kind of my experience. But to basically recap it, um, I've been kind of involved in this white sympathetic stuff for many years. I started out in 1983, online at least, but I was very much white aware before that. I never really viewed things from a from a left and right um, lens, because I understood that they both kind of sucked in regards to white people. And this was, of course, back long before we were anywhere near as white a race as we are now. Um, but I grew up with guys like George Lincoln Rockwell on TV. There was footage of integration on TV, and I had teachers who were not really sharing their opinions so much, but you could kind of tell that they were concerned about the issues. But of course, the curriculum was teaching me that I was the problem. And I very much resisted that all through school. It didn't sit well with me. And then as I got into adulthood, got out into the world beyond my little Mayberry upbringing, which I've talked about, I got to see that we are, in fact, very different. And it goes way beyond skin color. I had many negative experiences, which is what eventually led to me to doing the online stuff. And this is way back in the day of 8-bit computers, 300 baud modems, and bulletin board systems long before the internet as we know it even existed today. And but coming forward, I had a long hospitalization, 2 years, just about, and very negative experiences with non-whites. And this was right about the time, of course, during Obama. So my opinions got very much hardened, I shall say. Now, fast forward, I think 2019 was the first video of Jason's I ran across. And no offense, but it was another video I watched. And of course, I would watch his videos occasionally, but didn't really seek them out too much. And then late last year, I started watching Jason stream much more regularly. I did order the Go Free book and Born Guilty. I read Go Free. I actually still have not had a chance to read Born Guilty. My life is hectic at times. And then, but reading Go Free was very interesting. And as I read the book, and then watched the stream, and then kind of things started to click. And I got a very deep understanding that the way I was dealing with my um, angst of non-whites was probably not the most healthiest way or the most productive way in terms of advancing our interests as white people. Now, that's not to say that you necessarily have to like non-whites, in my opinion, of course, but you have to love your people first. And as Jason spoke and taught Go Free in his streams, and as I watched and learned, I began to start mentally and then eventually verbally applying those things much more in real life. Because again, those are the conversations that matter. You can get a million people to agree with you online, and it doesn't really matter a whole lot, does it? Because you're basically in an echo chamber. We have to get people to agree that we shouldn't be victimized in everyday life outside of the echo chamber of this internet thing that we all do. And as I started to apply those concepts, the 6 key concepts, I started winning arguments. I started winning arguments with people you would not believe would ever, people so anti-white to the bone that it was ridiculous. And at the end of the conversation, argument, however you want to phrase it, they would have to sit back and go, well, yeah, I guess you got a point. And as those victories kind of piled up, that's when earlier I think it was late December last year, I really decided I had retirement coming up, and I was going to have a lot more free time, and I decided then that I was going to get much more involved in this community, and that's why I do the things that I do. I'm not looking for a pat on the back. I certainly ain't going to make money off this. All the things I do cost me money, but I don't care. I think it's worthwhile, and I think Jason has the most sane approach that I've seen in my over 60 years. Um, yes, Ivan, I am even older than Jason and older than you think. Um, but yeah, so, that's kind of how I got here. Some of the people that I've been on X with for years who are still very much in the white negative posting sphere, I love them dearly as friends. But I also understand that and I've tried to get them to come over to this side, to understand that, if you really care about white people, this is the path forward. There's no other way. I believe with every ounce of my being, there's no other way forward except for what we do right here. And that's why what we do here every day matters. Uh, we have our streams on Sundays and Wednesdays with Jason. Those matter. I know we jokingly call it the Church of the West. I know some people take offense to that. I promise we're not a religious cult. It's just kind of a play on words thing. But this is our church picnic. We come here to the shade tree every day. This has been amazing for me. Probably more so than for all of you. I mean, a lot of you who have been in this community a lot longer are much more skilled and experienced than I am with applying the concepts. And believe me, I appreciate that I'm in great company every day. And this has been a really good outlet for me mentally. I am enjoying this and picking up the YouTube stream and getting the word out to even more people has been awesome. Seeing the viewership count over there come up, um, seeing Jason's numbers come up, more people come into the community. Guys, we're going to win this thing, and we're going to win it with Go Free. I have absolutely no doubt It may not happen in my lifetime, which I'm getting to the end of. But I have children. I have grandchildren. We have beautiful white children all across the West who are going to someday see the victory and see the fruits of the labor that we put in. And it's kind of like the old saying, we often plant trees that we never get to eat the fruit off of. And I'm absolutely fine with that. But the fruit's going to be plentiful, and stomachs will be fed. That I promise. Ms. Grace, you've had your hand up a while. Come on in.
Yeah, I just thought I should probably go ahead and read Cindy Ben's testimony that she sent me. That way I don't forget while I'm listening to everybody else's really awesome testimonies. So let me go ahead and pull that up.
Sure, come on in.
So this is what she wrote. She said, my name is Cindy, and I'm a grandmother from Illinois. Up until my 60s, I knew nothing about politics. I had worked as a newspaper reporter but never covered political stories. I voted against Trump in 2016 because of his language and things the mainstream media told us he had said. I hadn't watched the debates. I didn't even know what he stood for. But when he won, I vowed to never watch the news until he was out of office. In 2017, I was researching England because I was dreaming about the day my husband and I could visit again. I kept coming across something about Muslim grooming gangs. I thought this must be fake news, quote unquote, because if it were true, we would have heard about it on the evening news. But the more I looked into this, the more I learned it was true. This led me to Tommy Robinson. And because I had watched Tommy's some conservative videos showed up on my list. I didn't even know the difference between a conservative and a liberal. But I found myself agreeing with things these YouTubers were saying until they mentioned Trump. But I ended up watching thousands of videos and even Trump's press conferences. It took months, but I was finally beginning to understand all this political stuff. During this time, a channel called No White Guilt showed up on my list, and I visited it a few times. One time, I joined the live stream, and people were saying some negative things about Tommy Robinson. I was shocked because I thought these people would understand that Tommy was a hero. Were they in favor of grooming gangs? This didn't make sense, and I had to defend Tommy. When I look back, I now realize that the time, oops, it it jumped on me. I am so sorry. Let's see. At the time, I didn't understand that they must have been talking about anti-white things that Tommy had said and were not praising the grooming gangs. But I was so upset that one of the moderators muted me. And that made me really upset because I had been banned or muted from other conservative channels just for asking questions. Sometime after that, I saw Jason on Mark Cullett's YouTube channel and I tagged him in the live stream. One of your moderators muted me, I said, while Mark was talking, and Jason replied to me, and I thought he would be rude like so many other channels, telling me I must have deserved it for something, but he said, let me take down your name and I will unmute you. Thank you, I replied, stunned. Wow, this no white guilt guy is okay, I thought to myself. I continued watching conservative YouTubers saying, trying to learn as much as I could and watching no white guilt on and off, but I kept going back to Jason because he made more sense than anybody. I was beginning to see that it's not about the left or the right, it's about anti white. Although it was good to educate ourselves, we didn't have to learn everything about political parties and statistics and history, etc. It all boiled down to anti whiteism. It really clicked for me when one day in 2022, Jason began playing a clip from a young mother at a school board meeting. She was crying about how just because she is against CRT doesn't mean she's racist. In the clip, Two other white women responded to her video by smugly declaring, yes, it does. And Jason remarked about how powerless this young mother was and that she needed the go free method. He talked about the anti white moral structure. At that point, something clicked. I even posted about it in the chat. I think I get it, I said. The young mother could have been so much more effective using the lexicon, telling the board that we do not want any more anti whiteism, rather than saying she didn't want CRT and that she wasn't quote unquote racist. I still hadn't read the Go Free book yet, though, thinking it wasn't necessary. But in August of 2022, I ordered it. When I started reading it, I was so impressed. It's absolutely life changing. I highly recommend it, even if you think you know all there is to know. Also, about this time, I discovered what I called our quote unquote woke anti white school board. And I wrote a very long email to them, incorporating some of my newfound skills. But I still wasn't skilled enough to use Go Free consistently in the email, which didn't do any good anyway. The school board was still as anti white as ever. I kept watching No White Guilt and learning and listening. In 2023, I suddenly had an uncontrollable urge to write an article about Go Free. So I resurrected my journalism skills and wrote one. Biospirit of the West posted it on our chorus space, and Jason read part of it during the live stream. After that, I wrote a feature article on School of the West. Biospirit eventually put me in charge of the chorus space, where I have written many more articles quoting Jason and others from our community. Everyone says such inspiring things. They should be shared far and wide, and that's what motivates me to write them. I even sent the school board some of my articles. Unfortunately, this didn't do any good either. They seem to be beyond help. Also, I've lately been fighting the censors at Quora, but hope to get all of my articles reposted someday. I have found Go Free the best method to empower us against anti whiteism. It is a tool that makes it easy to stand up for ourselves. Going free is a constant learning process. But when there is something I don't understand, I take Jason's advice and I shut up and listen. And I eventually get it. I think if others would take that advice, they would get it too. And the people in the Go Free community are the best. That alone proves to me the strength and the truth of Go Free. I have never come across people like this anywhere online or even in real life who totally understand how to go free of the anti white narrative. We are men and women of different ages with various jobs and interests and backgrounds, but we are all Western kind. We truly are one people with so many countries, and we can take back our destiny. Thank you, Jason, for giving us Go Free.
Yeah, that's an outstanding testimonial. Uh, we'll be sure to give Cindy a minute. 07s when we see her for sure. Outstanding. Gladiator, I know you had requested several times in the shade tree and you never had a chance to because of things on your end. But if you'd like to speak, Gladiator, request a mic. We will be more than happy to set you up because I know very often you kind of don't get a chance to, and I hate that. Mr. Janitor White.
Hey, evening to y'all. I think a lot of what Grace just read about Cindy's testimony, I especially the part where she was like defending Tommy Robinson and then was getting attacked. I mean, probably ridiculed because she was like she didn't even know. Like, and I see that in my swashing, and so that's always something that the go free position helps. And I would like to talk about how I was started with the go free method in our community. Um, just gonna Oh, so I found myself looking, you know, at like probably white negative things when I was like in middle school. And actually a lot of the things I think about from Go Free were from back when I was in middle school. Not that I found it back then, but just how I relate to Go Free in my life. Um, because in middle school I started finding, I actually did know what is liberal and what is conservative and other stuff that positions that I didn't like. I don't think any middle schooler probably, but not in my nature to actually have that down and like I don't think it was healthy really to understand that stuff. But even if it is not a big deal, it wasn't really helping in my later on when I because I was always like I didn't forget what that stuff was, but it was really touching how Cindy was saying it's not about left and right, and then how actually a few people tonight have brought up Born Guilty, Biospirit, and Jason. And the and also in the Quora, Cindy has shared my Trump problem. Oh, and Cass said that earlier. She quoted Trump, and how Cindy posted that onto the Quora, how that little edit I made. Um, and everybody's liking that. That's the most views I've ever had on this account at least, and I started it last September. It's like it's not about left, right, and then there's a Trump. There's a definite anti-white problem because that's how Jason said it in one stream. So that's why I'm always saying it like that. Um, and then what's on the? It's not about left, right. That one, and some other things. Oh, the Born Guilty cover, and people really like that. I know they don't know what Born Guilty is, but they can get on it like right there. So just go find it. But so I was in middle school and I did know later, and I didn't even know how to apply that to myself because I'm in middle school and don't know. Even though actually, well, for Jason different, but me, okay, myself. Um, and so I I later on, like as I guess I'm a freshman in college, um, I I wanted to find like a social like movement kind of thing. And I didn't even know about like Twitter and stuff. I was like, isn't that just for like funny videos and like random thoughts that I know it's always on like companies' websites and stuff, but I didn't know like this is how you um communicate to super big, massive numbers. Uh and when I was originally looking for something, I was like, I'll move anywhere, I'll start backpacking, I'll find some like like learn a new language or something. And this will be like I think what I was looking for was a morality. Because it was actually Carolyn Barashenko, something like that. And I found her the winter, no, yeah, late winter, early spring of 24. And that was her time recovering from being like destroyed by Kuna. And I didn't really understand, but I thought that was my idea. Oh, you go watch a live stream, and that's how you start to join um, make a difference in the world. And um, I look back, and then uh, I watched what's his name, TPC James Edwards, and that was really awesome because I went through his like archives and I just typed in random names, Jason, and I was like, oh, what about this? I heard about white erasure. I was like, interesting. So I went to his website. Jason Kuna's website. I didn't like it, and so I was like, what is this website? And then later I watched some YouTubes, like, and then another like 10. The streams are really long. A few hours long, and so to sit down and watch a few of them in a row, like the archives of them, it takes a few days. But I think there's probably spring break or something. Or I'm just in online college, I think, during that time, so I can do it all at once. And so I start my account a few months later, but I'm thinking, what was the morality that, and then, and so I start watching and I don't really hear any thing that, is earth shattering, except that it's just that it's all, these things that work. Because things that I've heard since I was in middle school back then, and it was like these anti-white positions that I didn't, understand they were anti-white, and I never even could like understand like the dynamics of anything really. I mean, referencing that was probably when I was most watching online and stuff I was like, I disagreed with. I went out of my way to make things that I didn't like my positions that I don't hold anymore and haven't held since then, or since even when I was looking for a position to hold, and why I was looking at the Carolyn Barashenko. I only watched one video or two from her anyways, and I was not really a part of that. And I just remember that's when I found the Go Free method. And so, but I'm saying, so back, I would hear about these, like we would talk to this, in our community, a prospect that you would think would take up the Go Free method. And he used this word that I realized, I heard this all the time back when, and it would just take up, like whenever I heard this word, I'll say it, that it's overrepresentation or overrepresented about non-white Black people killing and stuff and other things. And I realized I never used that. I never thought about that. And not just that, but a bunch of the other strategies that are defective and don't work, and how those I never worked with them in conversation. Even if I were to take a position that those defective strategies always take, I would never think about it that way. I would never use their language, not really to hide, but because it's not in my nature for these words to come to the front of my mind, or whatever positions they are. But I realized when Go Free, and I don't remember which meme curative, but I'll assume it was individualism in a world of collectives. I brought that to my mind, and I heard that a few times, probably Jason saying it on the live streams. And I was like, wow, oh yeah, I've said that. I mean, I totally see what he's saying. Not that I've said that. I of course didn't even understand those two concepts. Just that those words go together. They sound like they make sense. And so I think the morality is what I found, and is why they work. But I go back to middle school and I think about one of my friends in a new school. We were both new kids, and he was like totally living like the ideal, and even things that you would think maybe that's not a good thing. But I was like, he's getting all the girls' attention. He's maybe not the smartest, intelligent guy, but totally like awesome. And because we're both new to that school, and then later on, I would see how anti-whiteism would really affect him, and not just him, but others like my cousins and my family. They would get like really they would celebrate like anti-whiteism, and I was like, not, I wasn't even aware of this like morality that I was looking to actually change back. And so yeah, because you go from your friend being like the super ideal guy, and then he's like all with anti-whiteism, and now he's like low life. Every year would get worse, and I mean, you just become an anti-white, and then they reveal themselves, and I'm like, well, at least you've revealed yourself as anti-white. I mean, that's good for everyone. And then also that same year, and I looked in the dictionary at my school for the word anti-white, and I don't remember because I was super long ago if it was there at the school dictionary. And I don't remember finding it, but I remember looking for it like at my desk, and looking for it multiple times. But I remember at least once, and I don't remember if the anti-Semitic was above it or another word was near it. But I remember looking for the authority of it, of, okay, there's someone out there defending white people, and that would be the time to use this language, this word. But it obviously wasn't. I mean, there was obviously no authority then to speak, and even if it was in the dictionary, what was I gonna do? Go find someone talking about it? Like, not really. So it's been about a year since I created this account, and I definitely changed a lot of people's lives, like my friends, and people who I no longer have these idle defective strategies in my brain that are like so like waste of time, and because I am always working with the go free method compared to not even using their positions when I would be taking like their position that they would take. So that was not even counterproductive. I mean, that was counterproductive.
Thank you for an amazing testimonial, janitor. I'm going to get back to that 1 second. So a couple of comments from YouTube I want to share. The nameless one says the Born Guilty cover is epic and tells you a lot about what's been done and is being done to us all. The Westman comments, the cover of Born Guilty was eye-opening for my son. He has brought the book to me and talked about the harm of anti-whites many times. So I once brought up a thing that we know is a failed strategy. That was my number one strategy that failed. And I quickly figured out that stat dropping is totally useless. You go up to the average vague and you can mention the harm to a specific white person, but then once you get into the stats, they shut down. They don't care. Very much the same thing happens when you can sit there and rattle off the names of every anti-white Jew or anti-white black from the last 1,000 years. It doesn't really seem to make a difference. What does make a difference is when you can address the victimization today by anti-whites today and put it in that context. That seems to really land with people, in my experience. And that's why I don't really stat drop anymore, unless it's a specific conversation. I just don't bother because nobody cares, which is unfortunate, but that's the reality of life such as it is. Um, Gladiator, if you are able to, would you like to come on in, sister?
Yep, I'm here. You hear me?
Well, the floor is yours. Come, yep, come right in
It's
and go ahead.
oh no. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, first of all, the the moment I saw Jason, heard Jason, watched Jason, I knew he was the truth, the way, and the light to the well-being of our people. I knew he was the only way. I've never searched another way. I was my leader, and when I found him, I knew he was the one that I could lay my hands down. I knew he was on the right path. I understood the dialect. I spent a decade laying with my head wrapped in a blanket. Well, except for 3 years of that decade, I was in a state facility where I had a job. It was very structured, it was military. And that worked well with my bio spirit. But then the last 4 years of that was the jungle, open dorm, 24 hours, 7 days a week with the my towels, my blanket, sheets wrapped around my head, longing for my people, my bio spirit. I didn't know it as the word bio spirit at that time, though, you know, but I'm just speaking of my emotions that I was going through for years. And then when I got out, nobody was still on the same mind level I had been on. And I came across Jason, and y'all, you, bio spirit, Godfather, everybody involved that I don't know about in the Foundation for White Wellbeing, y'all have given me something. Something that makes possible for me to long to do for my people. It's an honor. I can't say how much it means to me to be able to go make a donation to my people. I've always donated. I've been homeless and always dedicated to something to give back to my community, even homeless, because I guess that was my way of holding on to my values. And I always believe that you find something with purpose, with solidarity, and of course, it takes a leader, and you find that leader that you want to stand behind and you support it. You get active, just like Tree Godfather's doing my way. Everybody's got a different way. Me, buying the books, passing the books out, making my donations to help them grow, because I don't want to just see Jason doing just this. I want to see Jason doing a lot more. I want us to see us growing, you know, and it takes finances to promote, you know, to not industrialize. What's the word? Progress, to progress. That's what it takes to progress. And I'm learning how to fight for my people out of love and not hate. I'm finally figuring it out the past couple of weeks since the incident with Irina. My communication skills with me and my niece are opening up. She's about to get married, and she's moving to England. And, you know, I was with that hardcore Nazi stuff, you know, because I didn't know. I was taught all my life, we weak. And of course, I wasn't falling for it, but I wanted to prove. So I found the most powerful thing that I could have to represent my, you know, to signify, you know, my strength. So that's what I used, because I didn't know anything else. And that's the great thing about Go Free. It's the words, to have something to identify now. Before, we didn't have nothing to identify what we was going through. Hell, you can have a child being raped right in front of your eyes, but if you don't have a title for what's being happened, it don't mean nothing. I mean, maybe not literally, but maybe so. You know, to me, that's the purpose of titles. You know, it has no significance until it is noticed, pointed out, and has a title. Until then, it's unnoticed. So that's why these words are so valuable. And I mean, it's the key for the future of my children, our grandchildren. What we're doing now is for them. We're the last generation of any strength. that is going to have the strength. We got to grab the bull by the horns. We got to get a grip on this because our children, they're not going to have any laws to protect them. So it's up to us to stand now. But thank you, Biospirit. Thank you, Jason. And Bernal and anybody else that I don't know about, thank you for making all this happy for me and all of us. I love y'all.
Very wonderfully said, Gladiator. I want you to know that we all love you. Never doubt that for a minute. I know you can't see it right now, but there's for you and my noir, my YouTube screen is full of emojis. So they are celebrating you guys like crazy over there. And it's awesome to see for sure. So Gladiator touched on something kind of interesting. You know, the other big advantage of Go Free, it gives you a very constructive outlet for that anti-white harmony that we are all dealing with. It gives you a positive place to put your energy so that you're not harmed. Because as Jason pointed out very wisely in a recent stream, you can hate all you want, but the only one that feels that is you. The guy that you hate never feels an ounce of it. And as I said earlier, this doesn't mean that you have to like other people, but have to love our people first. And hate over eventually. Well, hate will eventually burn you up. To the last thing Gladiator said, you know, we are going to be the last people that have a democracy in many of our countries. It's not going to get any better from here. We need to continue to do the hard work that we're doing because it's just not. It's not going to. The numbers are. The deck is getting stacked more and more against us as time moves on. Mr. Janitor of White Noir.
Yeah, I am comfortable with the lexicon for at least a few months with my family that I think I was also comfortable with computer like knowledge because I know some of y'all have gamed or whatever since you guys are way older than me. So I used the For Nulls GPT with a download of Hans's tweets. Like he just got his account nicked, so but I got a lot of them and I got into analysis of these tweets, and so I can make more, and I built a whole prompt on how to do that. So that's why a lot of my tweets aren't really mine in the sense that they're kind of Hans and kind of the computers. But you know, I mean, I studied a lot of his bookmarks. That's how I think about it. I would always bring them up with before the thing, and I would always try to. So I just created it. I mean, not created it, but like wrote it out, and then you know, this prompt that I use all the time now. So I just think you should know about that because I mean, it's not like Hans. He was saying earlier that it's the words will come back, but the connections are important for him. For I mean, I guess us. And I had used the I was also comfortable enough with the lexicon a few months ago. I mean, it's always more, and I think especially recently, like maybe the last month or two, that I've been with the Go Free method. But I used it with my family a few times because the anti-white history they have and mean pathogens that we all had, but specifically in my family. And it was always successful every time because I used them how they were made. Like I think I remember the first one was anti-whiteism, and then the next one had to be numerical courage, and then it was let me see, retributive justice, and then I mean a few of those, right? And then I just they tried to spring the anti-white narrative on me one time, and I don't know, it was only a few months ago here, but I definitely, I mean, it was there for like, I was there, we were talking as a family for 2 hours. I know I didn't have it as good as I do today, but it was still pretty good like 2 months ago. It's not that big of a difference. And we're like more of my family members now with that I didn't share with them until very recently compared to my nuclear family. But I I know Hans just got his account deleted today or whatever. So I kind of like want him to check it out, or maybe someone else who likes using the GPT, because it's just like an Excel spreadsheet is how it came out. And so then it's like something that Han said, and then it like analyzes the tweet and then brings it to his like cadence. And I think it's pretty sophisticated. Sometimes the GPT wants to like say that goes against my ethics, and then I just like press instant response answer, so it can't like try to give me the wrong thing. Because before, when I was trying to use it to have the same effect, what I would do is select a few tweets from the community like every week, because it would be like because you have a character limit, so that's the point of the prompt, and then the like 2,000 spreadsheets, so it's not like it just reads it all and then looks at the prompt. But yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say after
that. No worries, janitor. We've all had those moments. I got to tell you, I'm actually impressed. I don't think that that's a bad thing. Um, AI is here whether we want it to be or not. It's not going anywhere. And of all the people whose tweets that you could compile to use for our benefit, I got to tell you, Hans has got to be right up. Absolute brilliant wording, very often from him. He is just so on target. So you could do a whole lot worse. Just don't start quoting my stuff. Uh, we want to help us, not hurt us. Mr. Biosphere of the West, my friend.
I that is a big revelation to me, janitor of White Noir. I have just been so impressed with your tweets and the memes that you've been creating. The memes are wonderful, and your posts are just epic, and they're so articulate and so well worded. And so now to hear that you have this whole method, you're using the chat GPT and everything, it's like, wow, that's very that's very ingenious of you to make use of that. And I bet that when Fornell hears the good use that you're putting that to, he's going to be really, really happy about that. So I really applaud you on that. Then I also wanted to just say that I was remembering when Jason was talking about talking to other people and talking in front of groups and seeing what other groups were saying. It reminded me of the first time that I met Jason and Grace in person when we were at an event in Texas, and Jason had invited a bunch of us to go there and fill a table. And Brant was there, and Yiz was there, and several other people. And the speakers started getting up to speak. And the first one talked about the Jews. And I was like, what is this? And the second one got up and talked about the Jews. And the third one got up and talked about the Jews. And I was like, geez, do they have nothing to say about our people? This is like really getting old here. And our table was the only table that when the person was done, we would politely clap. But all of the other tables like leapt to their feet and were thunderously clapping. And we were all just kind of looking at each other going, what do they find so compelling about this? It's so boring. And it's not about us. And I think there were only two speakers that we actually stood up for. And I won't say who they were because I don't know if that's okay to do. But it just reminded me of what I said to Jason after that meeting. And I said, don't ever invite me to one of these things again. I said, the only thing that I want to go to that's like this is when we, the white well-being community, has an event like this. And we are all going to get together, and you are going to be the number one speaker, and we're going to have people from our community speak, and it's going to be about white well-being. So that is still one of the things that I'm looking forward to, that I want us to create at some point. I know that Yiz has done some in-person events where she is, but it's a little difficult for us because we're a worldwide organization, and so I don't know. Are we going to have the guys from Australia fly in? South Africa and Europe come in? I don't know. It's a lot to ask, but it would be so wonderful for us all to be able to get together in person. I would love it, and that's one of the aspects that I really appreciate about tonight and this evening, and what the Tree Godfather has created by making these spaces every day, every week, and with CKO and Hans and all the other speakers that come to speak. It gives us a way to connect with each other that's very, very personal, that we don't necessarily get just when we're typing it at each other. And I really, really do value what we're doing here. So thanks.
Well, at some point, I think we could be big enough to where there'd be multiple events. One in Australia, one in the U.S., one in Europe, or several in Europe. I see that happening eventually with no problem. But you did bring up something in mind, Biospirit, that makes, I don't think anybody's here has noticed. Throughout this whole space, as we get ready to pop smoke, I have finished a bowl of lovely aromatic in my corncob pipe. Notice the way this conversation has gone and everything that has been said. Now, I know Cass is listening, and she probably has her children listening. And there's absolutely nothing here that has been said that we would be embarrassed if someone else heard. I have said many times in this space that the beauty of using the Go Free lexicon and the way we do things is that we could all be out at a restaurant somewhere having a conversation just like we do here in the Shade Tree every day. And nobody could vilify us for anything that we said, because we keep ourselves centered, treating other people. We're just working to stop the victimization of ourselves. That is a very pristine thing. And I'm grateful. I know sometimes I am often a big offender in my language, even here in the space. Caliber of people we have in this community, I didn't think twice about whether or not there was going to be children listening or to anything that anybody here would say. And for that, I know that we are in the right place with the right people. I'm going to pass it around now for final thoughts. And I'm going to start off with our friend, Ms. Gladiator. Your final thoughts, dear.
My final thoughts are I love y'all and I enjoyed our time together and good night. Sleep with the angels.
Well, as long as I'm not sleeping with the fishes. Mr. Janitor of White Noir, your final thoughts, brother.
Really awesome tonight, this gathering. Poor Noel does know I had this or I told him and Hans that about this thing, not this deeply. I didn't explain it. I just said it in like a tweet to them. And what's it, Four Noel said it was badass. Yeah, that's badass. And it's really easy, and I can get this set up for anyone if they want. It's as easy as having a Google login to GPT and the file that I do with a link that we don't let the prompt go over the I mean, I send the link and the prompt, so super fast. And all you do is copy the tweet that you're talking back to, and yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that, Janitor. I think one of these shade trees will have you come in and we can do a deep dive on that, and we can devote a whole space to it, or as much of a space as is required. I think that would be pretty cool. My friend Biospirit of the West, OT leader, swashbuckler.
I'm assuming you want my last thoughts here. You kind of cut in and out. So I kind of said my last things right then when I just spoke, and I will just reiterate. Thank you, Jason, for creating Go Free, and for being the good person that you are. I know that one day our people will recognize what you've done, and you will be elevated to the rightful position that you should be. Thank you.
You were correct indeed, Biospirit. Thank you. We're going to go over to Mr. Jason. Your final thoughts, brother.
I can't put into words how grateful I am for all of you. This is it's a wonderful. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Tree Godfather, for holding the space, and everybody who was invited and everybody who's listening. And thank you all for being here. You all are really extraordinary people. We all are really extraordinary people. And the folks that spoke after me, sharing their impression and their experience and what Go Free, the practice, means for them. Tree Godfather talking about going through school and the curriculum not sitting well, and then picking up later in life after seeking. And that's really something that we see with everybody here, is that they are seekers. And what are they seekers of? What are they in search of? They are, it's kind of like they, walking in the middle of the day with the lantern, looking for an honest man, looking for what works to arrest our victimization. And that really is what defines the people in this community. and makes us so very different from those and so many other communities. The Tree Godfather said he picked up after seeking for many years in many different environments, going all the way back to Rockwell, that he started winning arguments suddenly. He started winning those arguments with anti-whites, with friends, with strangers. Cindy Ben talking about how she again was seeking, going from one thing to the other, wanting to arrest our victimization, finally finding something that its objective was as pure and noble as the heart within her breast, and deciding, well, this is the place to be. This is really what's going to make a difference. Janitor of White Noir talking about the efforts that he's already making involved to create better content based on the Go Free dialectic and lexicon. He saw it working with his family. He saw that the reason it worked was because it was moral. He saw, he got the ability to see, got the sight to see that the anti-whiteism ruining those around him. Gladiator, moving all of us with her testimonial, saying, starting off with Jason is the way. And I think really what's really being said there was really being felt is this humility, this desire to yield to what is moral and what works to arrest our victimization. And that's something that we all have, and to various degrees, and we all are distilling it further and further. A humility, a courage. This is what heroes of the West have always looked like. The hero that marches off into to combat, whether it's with a weapon or it's the weapon of the words that you're wielding. It accorded with Gladiator's spirit as well. She mentioned that, and it's so funny hearing Wes talk about the trip down to Texas. And yeah, he did. He was said, "Don't ever invite me to one of these again." This is, and I was like, "How do you think I felt?" Years of this, years and years, and then me afterwards saying, "Maybe we should try something else. Maybe we should focus on us." And then what Godfather just said there is, well, so true, that this is something you can say in front of everyone. All of these meetings, and it's a great example. But both West and Godfather just pointing these things out. It's like the same thing. We're in this we're in this conference there, and only in these very private environments, these cloistered environments, can people talk about this ugliness. Why is that? Because they know it's not going to work in the real world. They know it's not going to fly with people. They know that people are going to reject them, shun them, see them as immoral. So they know it doesn't work. That's why when we left the little cloistered room, everybody talking about these things did it in hushed tones. And they didn't want anybody to know. And whatever you do, don't let anybody know that we're meeting here today. Don't let anybody. Now, how is this supposed to be a path to victory? How is that supposed to recapture our destiny? West, Tree Godfather, both 100% right. That you can talk about this in every single environment. You can throttle it up, you can throttle it down, and the successes will continue. We'll continue reaching people at all levels of society: power, no power; wealth, no wealth; common laborers, high-tech scientists. They'll be able to see this and pick it right up. And we've demonstrated it can go all the way up to the most powerful man in the world in the blink of an eye. That's how perfect this is. We are going to, and I'm going to pass it back, but we're going to be the special forces. This is the reality. Not everybody makes it into the Green Berets. Not everybody makes it into the Navy SEALs. Not everybody makes it into the advanced placement. That's the reality. And but what do the Green Berets, the Navy SEALs, the advanced placement, what do they accomplish in the world? A hell of a lot more than the rest of the dullard, banal masses out there who are just out there to follow what's going on, to cheer like witless losers, whether it's a socio-political argument or some band on a stage or whatever it is, totally irrelevant and meaningless for the recapture of our destiny. That's what really sets us apart as something different. I'm going to be live, as you all know, but for those who might not know, tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope to be on YouTube, but look for me there. If you don't see the stream there, it is everywhere else, as it has been for last Wednesday, last Thursday, and of course this past Sunday. But hope to be back on YouTube as well tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing all of you there and rolling up our sleeves once again to get to work in service to white well-being. Thank you so much, and I'll pass it back.
Thank you very much, brother. And you know, we let Grace go, so it's only Miss Grace come in last.
Well, thank you so much. And I would like to say thank you, thank you, thank you for helping me hold this tree godfather, because I went to him with this idea and I didn't really know exactly how I was going to make it happen. And I don't have a space to run spaces on, or an account to do that. And I didn't really know exactly what that took. So he was really helpful, and he helped us. And he not only did he help us do the space, but he streamed it to YouTube, and it was so I just really really appreciate it. And he even hosted it, because first I messaged him and I was like, this is what I'd like to do, and can you like hold it on your space, because then it will have more people, and can I advertise it here on his Twitter feed for the shade tree? And he said yeah. And then he messaged back and he's like, I will stream it to YouTube. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. And then I thought about it and I messaged him back and I was like, and can you help me host it? Because you keep such an orderly fashion going on with your streams, and I knew more people would be speaking. And so I was like, can you help? And he was like, yeah, that's fine. So I really appreciate it. I know he's got a lot going on. He's got a family, and I appreciate him taking the time to make this happen. And I just wanted to say to touch on a little bit about everybody that commented on words tonight and how powerful words are. You hear it a lot of people that come at Jason. They come and they say, well, words don't matter, and words can't do anything. But that's so ridiculously just false. I mean, it's totally false, because words do matter. I mean, words are how countries were formed, and words are what we go to war over. I mean, words are in every critical document. That's what this is. And Gladiator said that if you don't have the words to describe something, then you are at a loss, and it won't ever get fixed, and it won't ever get called out, because you don't have the words. And what Jason has done is given everyone the words to be empowered to call out anti-whiteism. And words are how we lost this fight and how we're in this mess. And words are how we'll get it back, which is something he says very often. So, and thank you so much again for having me and doing this. I really appreciate it.
Well, first of all, you are most welcome, sister. I was very happy to do it. We had Shade Tree a couple of weeks ago where I talked about the invention of the pen and writing and how that changed history forever. Words truly are the most powerful thing on earth. They build countries, destroy countries, uh, they determine how we think, what we think, what we think about how we think. They're very, very, um, they're the nuclear weapons in human history. So yeah, words matter. Absolutely. You know, having a pristine lexicon that we can use to defeat anti-white arguments is no small thing. It's the most important thing. With that, I am very happy that you all joined me this evening for this extra shade edition of the Shade Tree. This has been the extra shade edition of the Shade Tree, White Wellbeing NWG Space. We meet here daily at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on X. And we also live stream this to YouTube and Twitch. We practice the Go Free lexicon and concepts as developed by my brother, and I mean that, Jason Kuna, Mr. No White Guilt. You can find him here on X as at No White Guilt NWG. Elsewhere as simply No White Guilt, and on the web at nowhiteguilt.org. I want to thank each and every one of the speakers and all of you who showed up to listen. You all make this space possible by bringing your diverse experience, skill sets, and intelligence here for all of us to share. Without all of your participation, whether as speakers or listeners, it would just be me, a crotchety old man rambling into space. Sometimes interesting, often handsome. Thanks again. I truly appreciate y'all. Enjoy what's left of your evening or morning, whichever happens to apply. I do love you all, and I hope to see you all tomorrow under the shade tree where we continue to go free. Bye bye.
Our children are priceless, and we would do anything to protect them. So why aren't you using Go Free to protect them from the most harmful ideas? Decades in the making, Go Free is a simple yet brilliant practice designed to free us from destructive socio-political ideas. As words are the tools with which we think, Go Free promotes precise, simple, and targeted language to counteract psychological warfare. When you go free of the system's control over your word choice, you liberate your thinking. As you grow, you can empower others. And the most important thing you can do is inoculate our children against the ideas that are meant to harm them.
Are you noticing changes in our country you find troubling? Do you feel unsafe and at a loss to remedy these fundamental shifts? Have you found the book Go Free by Jason Kuna? The Go Free method provides excellent meme curatives and specific language skills to overcome the anti-white psychological warfare being waged against us across the West. Go Free, a guide to aligning with the archetype of Western kind, by Jason Kuna, available on Amazon.